The same, you have the marginal, you have the fixed, you have the absorption. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is to draw something we call the torque section. The torque section. Although later on in the topic of budget, we'll be calling it torque budget. So in this one, we begin here with the details. Then you have the details, we have the opening stock. Then we say add production. Add production. We say less sales. Less sales. And when you do so, you get what we call the closing stock. You get what we call the closing stock. So if it was just for one period, you would have said units, but now here we have 2 periods, 3 periods. So we have period 1, we have period 2, period 3. We have period 3. Period 3. So you record the figures as they have been provided. If we start with production, you can see period 1, production is 30,000. Period 2, production is 38,000. In period 3, we have 27,000. The next item we are given is sales. So sales here it is 30,000, which is supposed to be negative. Here it is 27,000, which is also negative. And here it is 38,000, which is negative. The opening stock for period 3 tumepewa 11,000. And the closing stock for period 2, we have been told it is what? 11,000. Look here. In period 1, we are not told about stocks. But as you can see, production is equal to sales. So if they are equal to sales, then you take that there were no stocks. But in the event that your production is not equal to your sales, then there should be stocks. And this is how you argue. If production is more than sales, say for example, sales equal 25,000, then you take that opening was C, so that your closing will be 5. You produced 30, tukauza 25, so tunafunga na 5. That is when production is more than sales. But if sales are more than production, For example, this is 35. There is no way you can sell more than what you have produced. So if you sold more than what you produced, it means you had some opening. So the difference between the two now becomes your opening stock. So your 5 will be opening, so that now we close with what? Then the closing today is the opening tomorrow. So if I say now, here this is 0, and this is 0, then this closing today comes the opening tomorrow. And as well, you can see the closing today is the opening. So that now here, this is 38, and the closing goes to, yeah, so the table is full. Now from there, we draw now the income statement. By your book, 4 columns. So this one, we will call it marginal costing. Marginal costing, income statement. Marginal costing income statement. So we do have details here. We have period 1. We have period 2. And we have period 3. So we begin with sales. Now we normally prefer having 3 columns here. 1 column showing the workings and the others now showing the answers. But because now we have 3 periods, so you may not afford to put the workings there. So maybe somewhere you shall put the workings. But the workings are not very difficult. They're just very simple things. So for the sales, we are told the selling price. They should have given us the selling price where? The selling price number 2 is 9 shillings. So what you do, nachukua this 9, this 30, you multiply by 9. So multiply and tell me the answer. 270. So, and we can use our figures in thousands. Let's have our figures in thousands, but we don't project so much. So that will be 270. I do the same for period 2. 9 times 27. 243. So nimesema in case you will forget how we are getting that, like that. That this is 9 times whatever. Then that 8 times 9 you get 342. So that is sales. Then you say less opening stock. Less opening stock. Now the opening stock, you come back to your stock stage. Realize that in the first period, opening stock was what? 0. So it is going to be 0. When we are in marginal costing, 1 unit we are valuing it at what? 4.5. So it will be 0 times 4.5. That will give us what? 0. Then, when we come to second period, it is also 0 times 4.5. That gives us also what? 0. When you go to the third period, it is 11 times 4.5. That gives us 49.5. 49.5. Make sure umepanga kadi yako like panga in mind. The next one is production. Production. Now, production, you go back to your stock schedule and realize that in the first period we produced that. And when we are in marginal, 1 unit is valued at 4.5. So multiply 4.5 by 30. 135. Do the same in period 2, 38 times 4.5. 171. 27 times 4.5. 121.5. Closing stock. Closing stock. Now, closing stock is 0. So 0 times 45, that gives us what? Other times 0, 4.5, it is 0, which we are supposed to be subtracting. The next one is 11 times 4.5, we get what? 49.5, which we are subtracting. And the other one, 0 times whatever is 0, which we are subtracting. So when you subtract, the answer that you shall get, here is called cost of sales. Cost of sales. So in the first period, cost of sales is what? 135. Sasa inaandikwa hapa directly below sales. Inakuwa the brackets, within brackets. Huyo mwingine period 2, 121.5. Again within brackets. Huyo mwingine 171 exact, within brackets. Sasa this figure now we subtract from sales, and when you do so, the answer we get is called gross contribution. The figure we get is called gross contribution. don't call it gross profit, we call it gross contribution. So in the first case, 135. In the second case, 121.5. 171 on the half of each. Okay. Then from there, you say less variable non-production costs. Variable non-production costs. You less variable non-production costs. Now, in this question, we do not have any other costs, but what I'm intending, because we don't have the luxury of time, I'm giving you the full format so that if you see a question that has these things, not be started. So, kama tungekuwa na variable non-production. Remember, these ones that we captured here, they are called production. Production are the costs that we incur in converting a raw material to a finished product. Non-production, they are costs that are incurred to facilitate the production. Things such as advertising, marketing, administration, and so on. So it's good you get to clarify that while we say here we put the variable, it is not every variable. It is the variable production. Here, it is not every fixed. It is the fixed production. So now that the variable production is covered, now we are bringing the variable non-production. And if you remember your CVP, the difference between sales and variable cost is called what? Contribution. That's why we are bringing in the word contribution. So now that we do not have any, we can put 0. It represents that way. You can put 0. But in an exam, ukiona haina, you don't keep on writing it. That's all that too. Now here I've said I'm showing you everything. So once you have subtracted any non-variable production cost, the answer that you get is called net contribution. The answer you get is called net contribution. So in period 1, this will be 135, this will be 121.5, and this will be 171. The answer you get is called net contribution. Now from there, you say less fixed costs. Less fixed costs. Now these fixed costs, they are of 2 types. First of all, we start with the production. Start with the production. Now production, they are the ones that are going by the word production overheads. Production overheads. So, if you look at the cost card that is given here, we are told that the production overheads, you need to look at 1 per unit. And we are told this one is based on 30,000 units. You remember from your topic of overheads, maybe you can come back here, eh? You squeeze that formula. You can come back into here. Where tulikuwa tumesema fixed overhead absorption rate. You remember from the topic of overheads, this one is supposed to be given as budget fixed overheads. You divide by budget output unit. It is the budget fixed overhead. You divide by the budget units. So now that we know, so down there now is our action, you can be able to come and say budget fixed overhead, budget fixed overhead, budget fixed overhead should be equal to, sasa unachukua hii FOAR na multiply na what? Budget output units. So our FOAR was 1 bob, and the units we are told they were 30,000. So this gives us an amount of what? 30,000. So the budget fixed overheads, they are 30,000. So if the question has not given you the total figure, that is how you arrive at it, because you know that this is how this formula was. And I can say that earlier on, if again the question has not given you the OER, you use this formula, which you know so well from the topic of overheads. Sasa, was trying to see whether these periods are less than 1 year, but there is no indication, because there are times the periods will be given for a period less than 1 year, but the costs are given for 1 year. So if, for example, they're saying these are 4 months, and this one is for the whole year, then what you do, this one you divide by 3. Your Naidawa, you spread it. But according to the structure of this question, they are just talking of period, and then they are telling us the activity level is 30,000, which we can see here. So what we shall do, we are going to take the cost for a period on its own. So if that is the case, sasa turudi hapa kwa production, just to show that they are different. I think over unaiweka ndani kidogo because it is at the production. So tutaweka 30 hapa na 30 hapa na 30. Then non-production. Non-production, in this question, we have the admin. We have the admin, which we are told they are fixed at 25 per period. So hapa unaweka 25, unaweka 25, 25. So that is all. After you have done that, the figure you get is now called net profit. So give me a kwanza. $80. 6.5. 116. That's about the end of that statement. So as far as marginal costing is concerned, you just cram this, not like format. This one will always remain. Cram here in inafuatana, that is good enough. Because now just better just. Any question? Okay. Sawa. So kama tuko sawa, I want to have there so that I now do the next one because my space is not full. So let's do a similar statement, but now we call it absorption. The same design. Absorption costing. Absorption costing. So that is sales remain the same. Just take your what? The selling price multiplied by the units like we did. So just read for me. The first one was what? 270. 270. The next one, 243. 342. So the sales remain the same. The sales are the same. Then opening stock. The argument is the same, except that now that we are in absorption, we shall use 5.5. When you're in absorption, 1 unit is valued at least. So it is going to be 0 times 5.5. Then 0. The second period, the same 0. The third period is 11 times 5.5. You get what? 60.5. Production, now every unit is valued at 5.5. So the material 30 times 5.5. 165. 38 times 1 times 5.5. 209. 27 times 5.5. 148. 5. 148.5. Our closing stock is 0 times 5.5 and 0 times 11 is 60.5, which is supposed to be subtracted. And this is 0, which is supposed to be subtracted. So when we less that, we shall get ourselves a figure called cost of sales. Figure called cost of sales. So first period, we get what? 165, which we shall subtract. The second period, 148.5. That period, 209. When we rest that, we will get a figure called gross profit. So here now you can see the word had changed. In marginal, it was gross contribution, but here now we are calling it gross profit. So 270 minus 165, we get what? 105. The next one, 94.5. And the last one, 133. After gross profit, you write fixed production costs. Fixed production costs. Fixed production costs. Now, under the fixed production costs, we have three things. The first one is called absorption. Absorption. We know from the topic of overhead, absorbed overheads, you take the OER multiplied by the units that have been produced, the actual base. So what we shall do, tutakuwa tunachukua hii OER 1 na multiply na production. So the first one then will be what? 30. The second one will be what? 38. And the last one will be what? 27. The OER, the fixed overhead absorption rate, multiplied by the units produced. You now bring something else called actual. What happens? There is always the plan and then the actual. The plan is what we call budget. And the actual is now what you actually pay. Quite often, the actual and the budget will be the same, but there is also instances they will not be the same. Like when you are leaving the house, you used a matatu. How much did you expect to pay for fare? But that's the amount you are ready to pay when you are leaving the house. When you go to the bus, how much did you pay? 30. So your budget was equal to your actual. Was there any feeling, any emotion? No. Because what you were expecting is what you got. Anyone who paid something different from what they were expecting? Okay, maybe today you are good. Have you ever paid anything different than what you were expecting? Very good. You paid more or less than what you expected? More. Was there any emotion? Sweet or bitter? Bitter. You know, money has emotion. Money has emotion. I don't know whether you have one noted. When you have money, you feel happy. Like now, at the end of my day, most of our faces are good because there are some points somewhere. But when you are very broke, I don't know whether why or you will experience that seasons. When you are very broke, hakuna kitu kwa nyumba, kwa account, hakuna. You ever gone through that? What's the emotion? What's the feeling? Kuna kuwaga na kauoga ingine. You are not settled. So that's the same thing. And that emotion, if you felt bitter, that is what the other day we were calling adabsorption. Adabsorption means you have paid more than what you have received. That's why you feel cheated, and that makes you feel bitter. But if you pay less than what you were expecting, that's called overabsorption. And over is a profit. Because the case where you have received more than what you have paid for. So, if the question had mentioned both actual and budget, now you just actually bring it here. But if the question had not mentioned about the actual, like this, you take that the budget is equal to the actual. They have not mentioned. You take that the actual is the budget. So now after to compute this one, you are calling it the budget fixed. So now that the question has not given us the actual, we shall take this budget to be our actual. So you're going to write down. Nakuja ikiwa negative. So the difference is either over or under absorption. Just write it for our under. Absorption over or under. Na kama ni under, nimesema under is the bitter in. So bitterness is the expense. So that's why we are putting it within the bracket because you're going to subtract. So let's go for them. In the first period, no difference. In the second period, we have a case of 8 positive. Now, this one is a profit, is an over. We absorbed more than what we paid for. That's over. The absorbed is more than actual. This one is negative, is under. We received less than what we paid for. From there down, you bring non-production costs. Non-production costs. And maybe I also needed to mention that this actual needed fixing it to kwa margin. The one that we put at the margin of production. Now, for the non-production, there are 2 categories. Again, if you remember what we did in marginal, first of all, we have the variable. So in our question here, we do not have the variable. So we just put the zeros. But kama ilikuwa, ingeletwa hapa na inakuwa negative, subtract. It's supposed to be subtract. Then you bring the fixed. So in case there are several, you show the name. So here we already have one, so naigiza ndani kidogo, administration. There was administration. Administration, we know it was 25. Kila mahali. And when you do so, you now get the net profit. Haya. Hapa umepata? 8, the next one? 7.5. Then 5. So you underline that. That's the end of that statement. Now, after that, below that now we draw what we call profits reconciliation statement. Draw what we call profits reconciliation statement. Kama ile tulikuwa tunafanya juice. But this one, to give you a format that you just grab. So we begin with the details. We will have marginal costing profits. Marginal costing profits. Then we say less difference in opening stock. Then we say add difference. Difference in closing stock. And that should give you absorption costing profits. Absorption costing profits. Absorption costing profits. Those are the details. Then we have period 1 and period 2, 3. Period 1, 2, and 3. My space is squeezed. Period 1, period 2, and 3. That's a format that cramming. After you have absorption, just cram it that way to remain that way. That's fine. Haya. So this is what you do. Rudi kwa ama tuanze na hii. For the absorption costing, period 1, profit is 8. Period 2, profit is 77.5. Period 3, profit is 105. Rudi kwa marginal, unisomee profit. In margin, the first one got 8. Okay. The second one. 116. Now I told you when you are reconciling, which one is erroneous? That's the first one. Now, what you do here, unaangalia hii statement ya absorption na ya marginal. Hii opening stock. Absorption wametumia what? 0. Angalia marginal. Marginal walitumia what? So the difference between the two is what? So andika 0 hapa. Haya, uje hapa. Kwa period 2, absorption wako na 0. Marginal walikuwa na, so the difference is what? 0. Haya, period 3, absorption wako na 60.5. Marginal walikuwa na, the difference is 11. We do the same for the closing stock. Unaangalia hii value ya 0, marginal walikuwa na 0, so the difference is what? 0. Na hii sasa tumesema ni ya subtract. This one is a subtract. Period 2, the difference is what? So the difference between the two stocks, 11. And period 3, the difference is what? 0. Now, if everything is all right, these figures should agree. So, ukichukua calculator useme 8 minus 0 plus 0, si 8. This one minus 0 plus this, sinarudi hapa. And this one 16 minus this, sinarudi hapa. They should agree. If they don't agree, you should know that there is somewhere you have an error. And now you go back to look for it. So in this question, the examiner had not asked for reconciliation. He had only asked for the, and it's using the word variable costing. Variable costing is the other word for marginal costing. I think in the note I've given you very many names because each has several names. Each has several names. And the other thing that we normally do in manage, or how I advise my students in management accounting, because management accounting has very many words that can be used to mean the same. And you may not know everything. Lakini ukiangalia swali ni they are the same. So ukiona what they ask you wewe hujui, lakini swali unajua how we go about it, where present the way it's normally presented, examiner. We still have a few minutes. Do you think we need to do another? What do you think? Okay. Let's go to this one of May 2015. May 2015, question 3B. Yes, Brian, you can see that. It's on page 62. Madam, read for us. Could you appear your name? Read for us.
So is there limited that provided the following details for the month of April 2016, usage of production, net sales, post data by variables willing cost at 10%, normal income statement for the fund using maximum testing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's good. So we cannot see the figure of the sales and production. I don't know whether I can get the original. Let me see whether I can get. If I don't get the data from the figures. We can't see an original paper. Hii maswali kutoka mbinguni. So we can cook our own figures. Nataka hapo kwa sales andika 10,000. Na production andika 8,000. Sales hapo andike 10,000, production 8,000. So with that now we can move. So as I've told you, the first thing is to do what we have called units. Compute unit costs. Unit costs. And we begin with marginal. Now, marginal, we have said it captures only the variable production. So you go to where you can see cost data per unit. Direct material cost, is that a variable cost? Is it part of production? Yes. So now we're at 360 plus direct labor. Is it a variable cost? Production? Variable production overhead. Is that a variable cost? Production? So you say plus 60. Other costs, fixed, those ones are not. You can see there is variable telling for additional information. You can see it. Is it part of production? No. Selling is not part of production. So that means our variable production, there are those three. 500. Then you now bring what we have called fixed overhead absorption rate. Fixed overhead absorption rate. Now, in this question, they have not given us the OER like the other one. But what they have given us is the fixed production overheads, which we are told is 1,980,000. According to the formula that we know, we are supposed to divide this by the normal production capacity, which is 11,000. $180. 180. So the next thing now is absorption. Absorption tumesema it captures both variable and then fixed. So unaleta ile 500, you add the 180, that gives you 680. We could also, now that there is another working here for the selling cost, we can work it out. Selling costs. You can also bring it here by unit. We already have the figure. So the selling cost, we are told it is 10% of feed. It's simply 10% of the selling price. And the selling price is 1,000 still, which is 100 shillings. So these ones have two ways. You can first of all get per unit hapa. Ama where the huko ukishapata sales you get 10%. Rachel, are you okay? Yes. Oh, those ones who are units. Si hapo juu kumeandikwa units. Mahali niwaambia muandike 10,000 ni hapo kwa units. Yes. Na 8,000 for production units. You know, when you talk of sales, kuna units na kuna revenue. Sawa. And that reminds me, there are some other questions that will tell you selling cost is 4 shillings. Na inanyamazia hapo. Ukiambiwa ni 4 shillings na imenyamazia hapo, we always multiply by the units sold. The non-production cost, they are always multiplied by the units sold. For some questions, we just tell you non-variable, non-production variable cost was 10 shillings per unit. So which unit? Then production, are they sales? I'm saying it is what. Haya, kutoka hapo tengeneza the top section. The top section. So we have details here. What details tumesema we bring opening stock. We say add production. We say less sales so that we get the closing stock. We get the closing stock. So, unlike the other question, here it has only one period. So, kama uko na one period, you only require one column here. Just bring the unit. You have just one period. You can either say units or you give us the name of that period. Because hapa tunajua in the month of April. Either units or tell us the name. Let's record. Opening stock, we are not told. Production, we are told it is 8,000. But sales, we are told it is what? 10,000. We are also not told about the closing. Now, I told you, you cannot sell more than what you have produced. And if that has happened, it means you had opening stock. So the difference here is 2. So lazima tukue tulifungua na ndio tukaproduce 8 zikafika 10 tukauza. So that tumefunga na so with that we can have marginal costing. Income statement. So now that it's just one period, we don't draw the lines to divide them. But that's how you nitaweka mpaka workings. Tutaweka mpaka workings because we have out of space. So we are adding one more column. Naona hiyo ingine ndio tulikuwa kwa each period we had 2 columns. Sasa hapa tuna add another one. So we start with the sales. So sales, you take the selling price. The selling price is what? We start with the units, and we can have our figures in thousands. So if we take the space for the workings to be somewhere here, ama niweke ikiwa full because we have space instead of thousands. Either can do it, and then make it to a full space. So it is 10,000 times the selling price of 1,000. So that we call working stuff. That is what? 10 million. $10 million. You say less opening stock. Opening stock. Now, opening stock, we have how many units? 2,000. So unakuja hapa unatuambia ni 2,000, which is being multiplied. When we are in marginal, 1 unit is being valued at what? 500. So 2,000 times 500 is 1 million. You to direct up. You come to production. Production, we produced 8,000. And each one is being valued at 500. Each one is being valued at 500. 4 million. Then closing stock. It was what? 0. Each valued at 500. And it's 0. So with that, now we can have ourselves a figure called what? Cost of sales. That would be 5 million. $5 million. So that tumesema after cost of sales, the figure you get is called what? Gross contribution. Good. Gross contribution. Gross contribution will be 5 million. Gross contribution will be 5 million. Higher. From there, tukasema you less variable non-production costs. Variable non-production costs. So the variable non-production costs, this question has them. The first one and the only one is selling costs. We need to show the working. So the working, we shall take the units that have been sold, 10,000 multiplied by this 100. This one. And I had not said that we could have a come out after per unit. We could have now said 10% of this 10 million. That's still the same. 10% of the 10 million. So see, that will be 1 million. So 1 million. So when you less that, you now get our figure called what? Net contribution. Get a figure known as net contribution. That net contribution will be 4 million. 4 million. Then tukasema now you say less fixed costs. Less fixed costs. And the fixed cost, tumesema there are 2 categories. We start with production. So for the production, we have the ones that are going by the name overheads. Just call them overheads. Again, when you're dealing with this fixed cost, you must be very clear about the periods. You hakikishe hiyo cost umepewa, it is in agreement to the period for which you are preparing the statement. Now here, the statement is very clear that XYZ Limited has provided the following details for the month of April. So whatever is following here is for the month of April. But there are instances where you'll be told the fixed production was for the year. So if it was for the year and you're preparing for April, that figure you divide by 12. That's something you should always check. Anytime you are dealing with fixed, check whether the periods are the same. Sasa, because this one is the same, we just bring the way the budget is. The way the budget is, which is 1,980,000. 980. That is the only production. Now we bring the non-production. We bring the non-production. So the non-production, the first one is selling expenses. Selling expenses. So the selling expenses is 399,000. And administration. Costs. $500,000. And with that, now we have our net profit. Net profit of how much? $1,121,000. $1,121,000. Let's now draw the absorption. Payroll remain the same. 10,000 multiplied by 1,000. Remain the same. Opening stock, it is 2,000 units, but now being valued at 680. So that gives us how much? 1360. Production is 8,000, now being valued at 680. 2440. Closing 0 times 680. So our cost of sales $6,800,000. So when you subtract it, you get a figure called gross what? Profit. Get 3,200,000. So tukasema, you now bring what we call fixed production costs. Fixed production costs. Fixed production costs. So the fixed production costs, I've told you it begin with absorbed. Begin with absorbed. The absorbed, I've told you, you take the units that have been produced, is 8,000. You multiply by the OER, fixed overhead absorption rates, 1.8. $14.40. Then you bring the actual. And I've told you, if the budget, if the actual is not provided, you go for the budget, which is 1980. So that the difference between the two of them, it will either be over or under absorption. To either be over or under absorption. The difference is what? 540. So this 540 is under absorption. Kama ingekuwa over, it was to be added, then it was to be added. Haya. You now bring the non-production costs. The non-production costs. The non-production costs, we have said they are two categories. We start with the variable. So the variable, we have one called selling. Have one called selling. So, sasa utachukua the unit sold 10,000 multiplied by 100. So that is a million. Then you now bring the fixed. The fixed, we have two of them. We have selling. This selling is 399,000. On here. And then we have the administration. The administration, which is what? 500,000. And with that now, we are very much ready to get our net profits. Hmm? 761. 761. So let us draw the reconciliation statement. Profits reconciliation statement. Profits reconciliation statements. Because we just have one period, we just go straight and say marginal costing. Marginal costing profits. Then we say less difference in opening stocks. You add difference in closing stocks so that you get absorption costing. Profits. Absorption costing profits. So the absorption costing profit is 761. Marginal tulikuwa tumepata 1121. So what you shall do, the absorption wametumia hii value ya open 1360. Na wale wa marginal walikuwa wametumia 1 million. So the difference is what? 360. Na hii 360 ni ya kununua. But the stocks, the closing stocks have no difference. Eh? So does it agree? Yes. That's how you call it. How you cost. Right, this one of June 2013. Question grade B from page 5. And as I told you last time, don't move out of this class immediately later. Chances are very high balance. You start frustrating yourself. Kusema huyo mwalimu tafundi kama mwalimu wetu. I told you mwalimu na MA hawana shida. Shida ni that you have used the wrong approach. So the correct approach, hayo maswali mawili yenye tumejibu, enda ufunge kitabu, ujifanyie peke yako. You see whether you'll be able to bring it up to this point. Ukikwama unafungua unaangalia. When you are able to do those two questions from the start to the end, that's how we approach it. But ukiachana tu hapa uende naanza hii. Actually, that is a strategy we use even in now that we are almost watch the exam. Wacha kujaribu maswali yenye hamkufanya class na just do the one that you did. Unafunga, unajaribu kujifanyia kama unaangalia. fanya yenye hamkufanya, chances zao utaona kakitu katakuchanganya. Utaanza kuingiza uoga. Ukienda exam una uoga. Yes, is as good as mine. So we bring that lesson to the end at that point. Then we expect to gather back at 11 to do now the decision making. I'm going to talk to Mr. Owino for auditing. I see whether you can give me his lesson tomorrow. We do a double again. Tomorrow is Saturday. Do a double early morning and then that. Because and our Monday class remains. There were suggestions that should not be there, but in times of scarcity, we need to. I'll be teaching you that, but when you are constrained with resources, you need it. You only give freedom when you have abundance. I don't know whether it ever happened in your family. Maybe mlikuwa umezoea kitu kama sukari, but one day chai haina sukari. Then you go ask your mother, why haina sukari? Do you come across something like that? But do you ever come across why haina sukari? What was the answer? Good, kunywa na kama utaki, wache. Hakuna kupembelezwa. Those of us who have children, when you go to the supermarket with them and you don't have a lot of money, you only have for one item, how do you handle them? How do you handle your children? Yes. If you go to them in the supermarket, with them to the supermarket, how do you handle them? These are practical things. I'm not teaching you things that you don't know. Those of us who are parents, those who are not yet doing us. Unashika mtoto mkono right from entrance mpaka mtoke. Ndio asijaribu kuguza kitu kwa hiyo supermarket yenye huna pesa ya. Lakini kama you have money, unamwachilia. Akienda achukue juice, achukue nini ama angushe vitu za wenyewe, you are ready to pay. Ama ukipeleka watu wanunulia kitu kwa hoteli and you don't have a lot of money, you only have 200 shillings and you unataka watoshe. What do? Unachukua menu. Unaambia waiter huyu pea hii, huyu hii, na menu unaweka kando. You don't give them freedom. But when you have money, you go and tell them, itisha chenye una. So I'm saying all those very many things to just communicate one simple thing. That on Monday we have a class. Because we are operating at a situation of scarcity of time. Because we have to cover hiyo tunakuja kufanya na routine decisions tutaweza kumaliza. We have budgeting and we have variances. Yeah. Na kama tunaweza maliza the earlier we finish, the better, at least tupate a few days here wherever what's happening for the exam. So those who are online, you join using the same link, but I want first of all to stop this one.